squash, responsible for product development in rackets and balls, and look after the players too. Worked for Dunlop for 14 years, been in the racket industry for 30, and here today with Nick to share thoughts and ideas on where we are at the moment with the Dunlop ball collection, and address the topic of using the right ball, which I've talked a lot of times with Zena and William with WSF about. So
I'm Nick Matthew, and I'm a former professional squash player, trustee, proud to be a trustee of the foundation, and been a brand ambassador for Dunlop for I won't say how many years because that'll give away my age, but many years, probably over 25 years now.
In terms of where we are at the moment, I thought it was worthwhile. The Use the Right Ball campaign and message is something that's really important to us as a brand. As Dunlop, we invest heavily in the sport of squash through our PSA, WSF, and all the federation links, as well as players. So it is hugely important to us. We went through a company change 5 or 6 years ago, and since then there's a bit of adapting to. We moved to new Japanese owners. But the time came a couple of years ago to talk to WSF about the Right Ball campaign. Now, the image on there is where we are at the moment. So we have the recognised intro, which is the blue dot. We have the progress, which is the red dot, slightly less big, and then we have the competition single yellow dot and pro double yellow dot. And that's what we understand and we have at the range at the moment. Comments were coming out not so long ago, and you'd read an article saying the double yellow dot is killing squash. The double yellow dot in itself isn't killing squash, but a beginner going on court or an intermediate going on court with a double yellow dot, he's not rallying, he's not enjoying the squash, he's not getting exercise, and potentially then he'll go and try something else. So in terms of this collection as it is 20 years in its sort of structure. So we realised not so long ago that we do need to freshen it up. There's clearly an opportunity with product for people to get more enjoyment out of the game. As an example, the ball that we have there, we have our head office in Eindhoven, and every time we meet, which is every 6 weeks, we have about 16 of us that go down to the local club in Eindhoven, and that's beginners to intermediates to some better players. And everybody has a good workout, but I'm ensuring that the beginners are using the blue dot and the intermediates are on with red, and everybody works up a sweat. They all have a great evening, and a lot of them now hooked on squash. The issue with the balls not being available can lead back to retailers, can lead back to education from the governing bodies, and that's something that we wanted to look at the development of the range because the time's right to do it. So we're looking at changing the structure, making it a much neater, easier to understand collection. We're looking at the namings of the product as well. With Progress Intro, maybe that's not always the right balls to call those specific types. We're looking at the size of the balls as well. That's been a common feedback on the blue and the red in terms of being bigger, slightly heavier than a normal squash ball. So that new range, easier to name and understand and educate. And a ball that came out from, which Mike mentioned this morning, stole my thunder, was a ball that we had in the collection. We produced it in black, and this is something that Mike has tested it and talks really passionately about. But it's something that definitely has its place, 100% has its place in a Dunlop collection going forward. It's not necessarily a coaching ball, it's not necessarily a ball that is great if you start playing when you're over 50 or 60 or whatever, but it's something that you could maybe start on your journey, and then as you're finishing after using the double yellow dot and single, then you maybe try this ball. So this is something that we have to market very well and cleverly in terms of how this is in the range. So in terms of the sustainability message, that's also a company-wide programme, so we'll move away from our 3-ball plastic packaging because that's no good, just throwing the plastic tubes away, so that will go to a cardboard sleeve, recycled cardboard, and we can also help with the distribution ourselves in terms of ensuring that all these types of balls get into the retail marketplace, and the person that buys his beginner's racket can get offered a beginner's ball, and then they start the journey in squash the right way. And Nick, you've been really passionate about this as well.
Yeah, it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about now, having 2 kids, 5 and 9, who play squash themselves now. And you only really get 1 or 2 opportunities to hook them on it. There's been some amazing initiatives that we've seen here, all brand new ideas in terms of getting that initial hook to squash. But this is something that keeps them hooked, after trying it for the first time. And if they can't get a rally, we've all seen it, haven't we? 2 beginner players not being able to get the ball warm, not being able to have a rally, and something like tennis has a real simplicity in their progressions, doesn't it? That it's not that squash doesn't, but we actually haven't perhaps over the years had that collaboration with governing bodies, being on the same page, that filtering down to junior events around the world, etc. And in tennis it's very clear. You start with a red ball, then you move to an orange ball, then you move to a green, and then to the full ball. It's very simple, and that's age dependent. And of course in squash we have the extra one with the masters. You could perhaps come on the opposite side of the curve there to get some rallies again. And that's not for Dunlop to say, is it, when that's collaboration with governing bodies, I think, because it's not for Dunlop to say all under 11s need to play with this ball. But what we want to do is work with governing bodies to actually say, where do we think this, let's do lots of testing, let's find the right stage to be using this ball to enhance the experience, and then once we do that, then let's smash the hell out of the visibility and the promotion of it. And that's kind of where I come in, because that's been something that's perhaps not been there. It's not filtered down to clubs, where ultimately is the buying point of the ball.
Yeah, I think we can make some positive moves in terms of, is there anybody from Squash Island here? Yeah, because am I correct in thinking, I mean, it's a situation we had, one of the Dunlop guys was at a club on a cold Sunday morning in Halifax. It was 2 under 11s playing, 2 9-year-old kids on court, couldn't get a rally going, and one of the parents said to our Dunlop guy, said, this double yellow dot, Dunlop, almost blaming Dunlop. But on that, am I correct in under 11s are using the single yellow dot in Ireland?
Yes.
And that you've seen that as a positive move in terms of better rallies and.
Yeah, I think anything that keeps the rally going, increases the enjoyment of players.
Yeah, but that could have been, so that was a conversation I had afterwards to England Squash to say, is that a move that we can sort of agree on? If that helps under 11 squash, that they're using a single and not the double yellow dot, then that would be something positive. So I think when the plan for the collection is that we launch it internally in November, and then it's a case of everybody getting on board and trying to educate in the right way. So we get past people not using the right ball.
You're trying to enhance experience ultimately, aren't you? How a lot of us have seen, there's an ego thing there, isn't there, with a club player as well, who probably would get a better game if they used the single yellow ball. But I'm a pro. Me, I'm great. I'm in the 4th league of the club. I want to play with a double yellow like the pros do. And actually, it's not to say that you're not good enough to use it, but would you get a better game? And just sort of filtering down that education.
You could potentially see the balls linked to levels as an example, so it's a clear indicator that you know what level you are, and we have a recommended levels banding on the box. That would help. That's an easy way to understand. I mean, Jethro took this ball on with your nephew, who hadn't played before, and sent me a video of the 58 shot rally, which was very impressive. That was just Jethro on his own, he did really. But it was, you were just showing how it really just helped and made things nice.
With the double yellow initially, thinking I didn't realise I had the rosette ball in, and I thought, I'll warm the ball up and it'll be fine, playing with 5 and 7-year-old, just 3-shot rallies.
Yeah.
And then tried with a racket ball and again, bounced too high, and we started 4-shot rallies, and then realised I had that ball, and the next thing we literally had a 55-shot rally with a 5-year-old. And it was perfect. So
yeah,
it's definitely in place for it.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
We used that ball for, don't ask me, I'm blind as well, partially sighted.
Okay.
So we used this ball for the partially sighted squash players at our club. They came on, they couldn't see the orange ball and the white because they have some level of vision. This ball, they can hit.
Yeah.
Partially sighted, literally they've got hardly anything at all. These guys are playing squash every week with this ball.
Yeah.
And that's partially sighted, which is incredible.
Yeah.
We've got our juniors, our adults now using this ball. It is absolutely revolutionising what we're doing.
And of course it links perfectly to the previous presentation of the outdoor squash in terms of, you know, if it's cold, you know, you need, you know, that word rally keeps cropping up, doesn't it? You know, everyone wants a rally. You know, when you see a junior tournament, great rally, it's what the crowd shouts.
When it's,
you know.
And we talk about the zone 2 fitness level. Perhaps the older player doesn't want to chase around, but that ball will bounce. They can stay at that zone 2.
Yeah.
You know.
This is all such great information, and you brought up a really good point because you're talking about visually impaired. So we haven't even touched the area around disability or a variety of abilities, and what is squash doing to include that population? So just something to throw out since we don't have enough time to talk about everything. So we were thinking some questions, but we're going to go right to the audience because it's incredible things happening in squash. So yes, jump in there.
I just wanted to pick up the ball situation. I'm a big fan of the red and what we're already using on the club for our juniors.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I personally wouldn't mess about trying to dictate to adults or trying to get the adults to use what they want. And I think once they start to see good promotion on different types of balls,
once they start to see good promotion on different types of balls, I think some adults will choose the, different types of balls, but I wouldn't try and specify because I think you'll spend years trying to get
but we can help
on that. But with the juniors, I think you can do it, and you should do it like the tennis, and have age bands on the different balls, and I think that should be relatively
We'll still have the progression through the collection, to this into blue, into red, into. So we need that anyway. But I think adults will use what they want. In my club, I've been on to 2 old boys using the double yellow dot because they didn't know any different, and then gone on. So I think we can all help educate better.
It's a recommendation, right? You can say, like you mentioned, squash levels link recommended for players in this band type thing. If they decide they don't want to do that, that's up to them, isn't it?
Interestingly, they did a survey of all the Masters players to see if the older age groups wanted to use the single yellow ball, and the answer came back pretty categorically they didn't.
From all the shot players that were winning.
And you have that in golf too. Often the new people in golf, it should be your handicap where you play, where it used to be men's and women's, and so. But what happens is everyone wants to hit from the blue or hit from the white. So every sport has that challenge for sure. Some other questions?
Yeah, so my question is for all the 3 of you. So has these materials been tested against injury prevention? So back where I come from, they made a badminton court where you don't need non-marking shoes, but then one fall on that court because that material had friction, everyone was scared to play on it. All these bricks look like they have blocks and they have different ridges. So have you tested it? Like, how do they go well? Because falls are bound to happen on a squash court also.
Yeah, I can tell you something. Yeah, I tried all kinds of flooring for the court we had, and we had plastic floorings with small dots. That was that didn't work. It was too slippery. But then the same thing, if you fall there, you will have some scratches. Now we use composite flooring, and that is quite, I think, the only possibility to use for to get a good grip when it's wet. And true, you don't need to dive on the court now. Well, I don't think you need to in a wooden floor or a glass floor. But that will be the balance you need to seek. And for outdoor courts, I think you need to have more rough grip to keep it useful also for moisture or for rainy conditions. And then you have to watch out a bit. But it really comes close, because if too much grip, then you will fall as well, because your feet, you can't turn your feet. And too less, then it gets slippery. So it's quite close. You need to adjust the grip. Yeah.
Our experience comes from a non-squash environment. So company's been going quite a few years, but many of our early products were for making boardwalks in nature reserves. don't know if you've been to a nature reserve, and sometimes they have boardwalks through the marshes, and if it's made of wood, you will slip off this thing very, very quickly. So what they then do is they put chicken wire down, and then if you slip off that, you really know about it. So instead, we made boardwalks out of the stuff that you've been passing around, and now the kids run up and down these boardwalks in bare feet, and absolutely delighted because, as you said, you need a bit of grip, because when it's raining and all the rest of it, you need to, for the water to not absorb into the material. So wood is not a great material for any sort of surface. But if you have something that doesn't absorb moisture, has a bit of grip, you're going to fall over. Everybody falls over. I mean, I fell over last week on concrete trying to play football, and you just have to take that with the, you are going to fall over at some point.
And I think, sorry, I had a question from Arnie, who I just want to acknowledge for really pushing forward the outdoor squash movement. So thanks, Arnie, and all you're doing. What was your?
Yes, I'm Arnie Draft from the PSA Foundation in Chicago, and we're going to be putting in the glass court this fall. Most of our initial customers, if you will, are going to be children who've never held a racket or hit a ball. So the ball has to bounce right away. What's your suggestion on the ball we should use?
On the outdoor court?
On the outdoor court.
Well, it would be interesting to test. I'm not sure exactly how, like the blue dot blue dot intro would bounce on that court. I mean, this certainly bounces. So, I mean, this would, and it doesn't fly too far off the wall as well. But I would definitely say, well, did somebody mention the red dot as being working well?
We did all the tests with all different balls, different colors, and the red one ended up as best. I mean, at times it even felt that it's bouncing too much when it got really hot. So, but at, let's say, normal temperatures around the 20s, it was perfect. I mean, you almost didn't need to do any warming up of the ball, and it was bouncing perfectly. Even hobby players did pretty well playing using that ball. So, single red dot ball is
red dot
at least tested on our court, and that feels. I think it's going to be the same.
You've also got the colour to take into account, right? For example, has anyone seen the steel court in Queens in New York? That's a black court, so obviously you'd probably then look to create a white ball in this size, or the orange one, for example. But
I think you need fluorescent, because if you play at night, you have a black ball, you won't see it. If you use a white ball with just white walls, you won't see it. So I think fluorescent balls will work best for outdoor courts.
This is where the technology, we're going to put a light in the squash ball so you can see it. One more question.
Quick question. How does the recycling system work for Dunlop? What are they doing when the ball is used?
Yeah, it is something that we've talked about internally, because it's not. We've looked at the collection of the ball towards recycling is not necessarily the problem. We've actually created some Dunlop recycling bins type thing that can sit next to the courts. It's so collecting the balls is almost the easy side, but then making it work in terms of recycling it, which is in a viable way, is what we're talking. There's a couple of companies in the UK that are talking to us and trying to get an understanding of what weight of rubber we'd collect and then how that could be transported. The balls aren't made here in the UK, so you want to collect, but then if the transportation back there to come back is, so it's something that we're looking at.
Well, thanks everyone. It's time to go watch some squash. No, it's not. I got it wrong. Hey, John, I can tell you it's not. But a big shout out and thank you to everyone for your contributions.